Thank you. The last time I was here speaking, meaning here in California, speaking to a CAIR California dinner, I believe it was in Sacramento, we had a president who believed that he could exercise war powers without being limited by the laws of war. We had a president who believed that neither Congress nor the courts could limit his powers as commander-in-chief. We had a president who believed that stripping a man naked, keeping him awake for 11 days straight, slamming him into walls, and waterboarding him 183 times was not torture, not cruel, not unusual, not degrading, not inhumane. We had a president who believed that there must be weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And we had a president who believed that the Constitution vested all power in one man, Dick Cheney. That administration launched a preventive paradigm after 9/11 in which Arab and Muslim men, particularly immigrants, were rounded up, interrogated, interviewed, registered, not because they were terrorists, not because they were involved in extremist violence, but because they were Arab or Muslim. They were profiled, they were detained, but very, very few were ever convicted of any terrorist offense. We now have a different president, a president who ended the CIA's interrogation program, a president who closed the CIA's secret prisons into which we disappeared suspects in the war on terror and subjected them to waterboarding and the like. A president who released the memos in which Justice Department lawyers made legal arguments to suggest that these tactics were not torture and not illegal. A president who has now announced that those that we have charged with the terrorist attacks of 9/11 will be tried not in a kangaroo court military commission, but in a civilian criminal court in New York. A president who has ended a policy of unilateralism and exceptionalism in favor of a policy of multilateralism and respect for the rule of law. Now, I want to say three things about this transformation from President Bush to President Obama. And it's not really about President Bush or President Obama. It's about the transformation, a transformation from a worldview that says we as America can do whatever we want and we don't have to pay any regard for the rules that govern everybody else, and another vision which says that in seeking to keep our nation secure, we must abide by the rule of law. And I want to say three things about that. One is that we should give President Obama credit. These are not easy steps for any president to take. The easy thing to do for any president is to be tough on terrorists, to talk tough, to lock up widely, to engage in what President Bush called the preventive paradigm. He's gotten attacked for every one of these measures that he is engaged in. So I think you do have to give President Obama credit. The second point I want to make, though, is that you have to give yourselves credit, because it was the voices of people in this room, of people associated with CAIR, of civil society at large with which CAIR has worked so closely, the ACLU, the Center for Constitutional Rights, the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, the Human Rights Watch. It's these organizations which made that transformation possible. Think back to 9/11. Think back to the day that we suffered the attack of 9/11. And think if somebody had come up to you and said, you know, America's not going to be able to get away with whatever it wants to do in fighting back, in responding to this attack. The person you would have talked to would have said, well, who's going to stop America? It was just attacked by extremists in one of the most horrific acts of terror that we have seen in the world. Who's going to stop America? The most powerful country in the world, no competing superpower. Who's going to stop us? And I think that is the vision, that is the perspective that the Bush administration took. Who's going to stop us? We can do whatever we want to do. And yet, what you see is that they were stopped. That in fact, even before President Obama was elected, President Bush was forced to retreat. Retreat on Guantanamo, retreat on renditions, retreat on torture, retreat on the NSA surveillance program, retreat on the mass roundups and detentions of Arabs and Muslims in the first period after 9/11, forced to retreat. And who was he forced to retreat by? This is the most powerful position in the most powerful country in the world. He was forced to retreat by you, by us, by groups like CAIR, acting together and speaking out. Not by Congress. Congress, for the most part, just gave him a blank check. Not really by the courts. For the most part, the courts stood aside. But civil society did not stand aside. CAIR did not stand aside. People spoke out. People educated not only Americans, but the world in what was going on and why it was wrong. And the administration was forced to stand back. And what I think that shows is the power of us. And the power of us when we speak up for the rule of law, when we speak up for justice, when we speak up for basic respect for human rights for all people, no matter what passport they have, no matter what the color of their skin. That is a powerful call, and it is that call, I believe, that forced the administration to retreat and that brought us President Obama. So give yourselves some credit.